Captain Mara Chen guided the survey ship Artemis through the silent swirls of the Veil Nebula. Stars shimmered behind hazy clouds of gas, painting the viewports with pale blues and golds. The crew moved quietly at their stations, scanning for new mineral deposits and charting unexplored space. In this remote corner of the galaxy, they felt both pride and caution. Every sensor reading, every faint echo could signal a discovery, or a danger they did not yet understand. Late in the ship's watch, Lieutenant Soren Briggs noticed a flicker on the long-range scanner. It was faint, almost lost in the nebula's background, but it pulsed at regular intervals. Briggs adjusted the frequency and found a repeating pattern. "Captain, you should see this," he said, voice low with excitement. Mara leaned over his console, eyes narrowing. A distress beacon so old its signal protocol was nearly archaic, pulsed like a dying heartbeat. "Set a course," Mara ordered, "but keep us at a safe distance until we know what we face." The Artemis shifted vector, engines humming with careful power. In the briefing room, the away team assembled: Dr. Elliot Rao, the ship's chief physician, Sergeant Lena Torres, head of security, and Ensign Kaido Morales, the ship's top engineer. Quiet breaths filled the room as Mara outlined the plan. Approach the source, scan for life signs, and retrieve any survivors. Minutes later, a small escape pod came into view, its hull dented and scorched. It hovered eerily among drifting ice crystals, tethered by nothing more than old momentum. Torres scanned the pod's exterior from the safety of the shuttle's airlock. No defensive drones, no aggressive readings, only a single life sign. Weak, but steady. "One subject," she reported. "Shields are down. Hull breach at quadrant 3. Mara activated the pod's hatch override. With a hiss, the door slid aside to reveal dim red lights inside. The air was stale, tinged with a scent like ozone after a storm. Inside they found her, a young alien girl, slumped against the wall. Her skin shimmered with a faint pearlescent glow, and her left arm bore deep lacerations. Her armor was cracked, pieces missing as if torn away in battle. Though she looked fragile, her breath came in ragged but determined gasps. As Dr. Rao lifted her onto a stretcher, the girl's eyes fluttered open. They were the color of twilight, vast and glowing with alert fear. She tried to speak, but only whispered sounds emerged. Torres gently covered her with a thermal blanket while Mireless secured the hatch. Outside, the pod's self-destruct timer ticked down the last few seconds. Mara keyed the override and held her breath. The countdown stopped at 0, silence followed. Back on the Artemis, the medical bay lights were bright and cool. Dr. Rao placed the girl on a biobed and began a quick scan. Her vital signs were stable but weak. Small bursts of bioluminescence traced the edges of her wounds, an energy the doctor had never seen. "She's using her own life force to heal," Rao said, astonished. "We must be careful. One wrong move could trigger something dangerous." In the corridors, talk spread quickly. Some crew members worried they had invited a weapon onto their ship. Others argued that no being, however alien, deserved to be left to die. Captain Chen walked the decks late into the night, listening to each side. She felt a quiet resolve growing inside her. Kindness might be the greatest strength they could offer. Up in the command center, the main screen showed the nebula's shifting clouds. The faint beacon now lay silent. Yet Mara knew the real signal had only just begun. By rescuing this injured girl, they had changed their course forever. Somewhere in the galaxy, powers far beyond human reach would take notice. And Captain Chen would face the choice: protect the unknown life in her care or heed the warnings of those who feared it. The Artemis slipped back into the nebula's mists, carrying its silent passenger toward an uncertain destiny. In the hush of space, every heartbeat mattered. And every decision made now would echo across star systems yet to be born. The Artemis hummed with activity as Dr. Elliot Rao prepared the medical bay for the injured girl. Clean white panels lined the walls, and soft blue lights glowed beneath each biobed. Rao moved with practiced precision, checking monitors, arranging sterile instruments, and calibrating the nanobot infusion unit. He double-checked the readings on his console. Heart rate steady but slow. Respiratory effort shallow. The girl lay on the biobed, wrapped in a thermal blanket, her eyes closed. Sergeant Lena Torres stood guard by the doorway, her posture tense. She watched every movement with trained vigilance. Though the alarm had gone silent, she knew danger could lurk in silence. Ensign Kaito Morales hovered near the power junctions, worried about the strange energy pulses the girl had emitted. Every few minutes, his handheld scanner flickered, warning of fluctuating power fields. "Doctor," he called softly, "her biofield is unstable. We need better shielding." Rao nodded without looking up. "I'm working on it." He tapped commands into the console, calling up schematics of the medical ward. With Morales's help, they reconfigured the electromagnetic dampeners to channel stray energy into grounded conduits. As wires hummed and lights flickered, the two worked side by side, human ingenuity shaping technology to meet the unknown. At last, the flickers ceased and the ward fell into a calm glow. Meanwhile, rumors began to swirl among the crew. In the mess hall, officers whispered at their tables. Some argued the girl was a weapon hidden in a victim's body. Others said she was a refugee deserving help. Navigator Jessa Cow pointed out that the galaxy was full of species, many far more advanced than humans. "We can't judge her," she said. "If she asks for aid, we give it." Her words spread hope through anxious minds. By evening, the stabilized ward felt almost peaceful. Light from the nebula cast shifting patterns through the viewport, painting the floor in gentle hues. Dr. Rao stood at the foot of the biobed, studying the alien's faint breathing. He pressed a fingertip to her wrist. Under his gloved hand, he felt a low, pulsing warmth. It was different from any species he had treated. Something in her biology was healing itself, but at a cost of great energy. Slowly, Nova, so the crew had begun to call her, opened her eyes. The first thing she saw were white lights in the calm face of Dr. Rao. Confusion and fear flickered across her features. Her voice when she spoke was a soft whisper in an unknown tongue. Rao activated the universal translator at his side. After a few seconds, he smiled. "You are safe," he said gently. "You are among friends." Nova's eyes widened at the word friends. She tried to sit up, but pain lanced through her arm. She gasped and closed her eyes again. Torres rushed forward, easing her back onto the pillow. "Easy," the sergeant said in soothing tones. "You are safe here." Though Nova could not understand every word, the kindness in the human voices was clear. Her breathing slowed, and she sank into a calmer sleep. In the cargo hold below deck, Ensign Morales and Technician Arun Patel worked on a portable shield generator. They took apart spare conduit rings and repurposed them into an energy cage designed to hold Nova's power. "Surges. If this works," Morales said, "we can transport her anywhere without risking the ship's systems." Arun tapped the final connection. The device sprang to life, gleaming with soft green lights. They tested it with a small power cell. It held perfectly. Above them, Captain Mara Chen reviewed the ship's logs. She noted every detail: the damaged escape pod, the girl's life-saving energy discharge, the Dominion warships en route. She faced a difficult choice. If she continued to care for Nova, she risked conflict with the Barian Dominion. If she handed her over, she would betray her own values. As she considered her options, she felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders once more. Night passed quietly. In the medical bay, Nova stirred and gave a soft cry. Dr. Rao and Sergeant Torres were at her side in an instant. He placed a cool hand on her forehead and offered water from a syringe. She drank slowly, eyes still clouded with pain and shock. Then, in broken common, she whispered, "Why help me?" Rao exchanged a glance with Torres. Compassion shone in his eyes. "Because every life matters," he replied. As dawn broke across the nebula, the Artemis held its breath. In a fragile sanctuary of steel and light, a wounded warrior and a human crew forged a tentative bond. They did not yet know the full power she possessed, nor the storm that would follow her. But in that quiet morning hour, kindness and bravery wove the first threads of an alliance that could shape the fate of countless worlds. And Captain Chen, watching from her ready station, resolved to protect that spark of hope, whatever the cost. Early morning light filtered through the Artemises, corridors casting pale patterns on the steel floors. In the medical bay, Dr. Rao reviewed Nova's vital signs on the holo display. Her heart rate was steady now, but spikes of energy flickered along her neural pathways. He frowned at the readout. "These energy readings are unlike anything in our database," he muttered. Across the room, Sergeant Torres stood guard, her eyes on every entrance. Though Nova appeared calm, the sergeant knew that strength often lay hidden behind quiet stillness. Nova stirred on the bio bed, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at Dr. Rao, then at the walls of the bay, as if seeing them for the first time. A soft whimper escaped her lips. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Panic darkened her gaze. Without warning, the air around her crackled with light. A wave of force rippled outward, and every viewport in the room spiderwebbed with fine cracks. Alarms rang. "Nanomesh field now!" Torres shouted. Engineers raced in, dragging a portable containment unit behind them. Ensign Morales keyed controls on the console. The unit sprang to life, emitting a soft hum as it unfolded into a dome of interlaced energy filaments. The fragmenting glass froze in mid-burst, held at bay by the shimmering barrier. Still, the ward shook with each pulse from Nova's body. Nova's breathing grew ragged. Sweat beaded her brow as she fought to still the tremors in her limbs. She had not intended to use her power. But fear and confusion had awakened something deep within her. Dr. Rao approached with deliberate calm. "Nova," he said quietly, "you are safe. Breathe with me." He placed a gloved hand on her shoulder. The contact did nothing to ease the tremor in her, but his voice was steady even when every monitor in the room fluttered from her aura. Below deck, Mireless and technician Arun Patel worked feverishly on the containment unit. "If we can reroute more power through the grounding coils," Arun said, "we might disperse her surges before they stress the dome." They adjusted conduits and rewrote code on a tablet. The dome's hum deepened, holding each new pulse in a carefully balanced dance of technology and raw energy. In the viewports outside the ward, the nebula's luminescent gases swirled on the Artemis's shields. Crew members gathered in frightened clusters, watching the lights flicker with each of Nova's bursts. Some whispered prayers, others gripped railings, determined to protect the ship they called home. Captain Chen remained at her station, monitoring sensors and strategy panels. She knew the danger was real, but she also knew that Nova's power, once understood, could become humanity's greatest ally. Back in the medical bay, Nova's energy pulses slowed. She lay back on the pillow, gasping, eyes wide with shock at what she had done. Dr. Rao and Torres stood at her side. The ward was safe now thanks to the dome, but the cost to Nova was clear. Her limbs trembled with exhaustion, and her skin glowed with faint aftershocks. I'm sorry," she whispered in broken common. Her voice trembled like a fragile leaf in a storm. Dr. Rao shook his head gently. "You have nothing to apologize for," he replied. "You did what you needed to survive." He signaled to Morales and Arun, who began powering down the dome. The room stilled as the last light of the shield faded into the floor. Torres offered Nova water, and the girl drank slowly, regaining some strength. As Nova rested, the crew worked to reinforce the medbay. Technicians installed tempered panels over the viewports and strengthened the dome's design. Engineers reprogrammed the ship's power grid to channel her energy safely in emergencies. In every corridor, crew members spoke in hushed tones of the girl whose fear had shaken the ship, and of the human resolve that had held it together. Night fell once more, and the Artemis drifted through the Veil Nebula. Inside the newly reinforced Ward Nova slept. The ship's systems hummed in harmony, a quiet testament to human adaptability and compassion. Captain Chen paused on the bridge and gazed at the swirl of lights beyond the shields. She pressed her fingers to her comm badge and said softly, "Maintain all shields. Alert status remains green. In the stillness, she reflected on the day's trials. The galaxy held wonders and threats beyond imagining. Yet in this moment, aboard a lone survey ship, human courage had met alien power, and neither had bowed. In the days to come, they would learn more about Nova's abilities and the destiny she carried. For now, the Artemis would remain her sanctuary, a fragile haven where fear and strength walked hand in hand. The Artemis drifted through the Veil Nebula, its hull glowing faintly against swirls of blue and gold gas. In the command center, Captain Mara Chen studied the sensor readouts. Every display showed the same warning: multiple ships armed and closing fast. The Baryon Dominion had found them. A cold hush fell over the bridge as officers braced themselves for the coming storm. Lieutenant Soren Briggs called out the distance and bearing of the largest ship. "They're 200,000 kilometers out, Captain," he said. "Armament levels are off the charts. This isn't a patrol, it's a hunting party." Behind him, crew members exchanged nervous glances. The Artemis was a survey vessel, not a warship. Its weapons were minimal, its shields meant only for stray debris. But they had one advantage: human innovation. Captain Chen stood and squared her shoulders. "Battle stations," she ordered. "Activate every defensive measure we have and prepare the drones." The word drones sparked hope. Below decks, Ensign Kaido Mireles and Technician Arun Patel had already been retrofitting cargo drones into decoy vessels. Each drone carried empty energy cells and chaff pods. Their mission: draw fire and confuse enemy targeting systems. In the hangar bay, lights blinked as drones activated. They hovered in tight formation, silent and ominous. Marines loaded into the shuttle pod carried makeshift point defense lasers, salvaged mining lasers adapted to target fast-moving objects. Chief Engineer Lila Park gave the final go-ahead. "Power rerouted," she said. "We can fire 10-second bursts every minute. It's not much, but it might slow them down." Back on the bridge, the viewports showed distant silhouettes growing, larger. A massive battleship loomed at the front, its hull bristling with turrets. Behind it, cruisers and destroyers fanned out like a deadly bouquet. The nebula's gases danced around their prow as they cut through with perfect formation. Engineers on the Artemis held their breath, watching energy signatures spike with every passing second. Suddenly, the nearest enemy destroyer fired. A bright bolt of energy lanced through the nebula, tearing into empty space. The Artemis shuddered as shields flared. Alarms screamed. "Shields at 50%, reported Lieutenant Mason. "Hull integrity is holding, but we can't take many more hits." She tapped swiftly on her console, diverting auxiliary power to reinforce critical nodes. Captain Chen raised her chin. "Launch decoys," she commanded. "Let's give them something to chase." The hangar doors whooshed open, and one by one the drones shot free. They lit up like a swarm of fireflies racing toward the Dominion fleet. Chaff pods ejected in bright bursts, coating the nearby space in metallic fragments. Enemy targeting. Arrays flickered and reset. The Artemis took advantage of the confusion. Marines in the shuttle pod opened fire with their point defense lasers, cutting through incoming bolts with precision bursts. Though each shot drained power, the weapons struck true. A Dominion cruiser's shield flared under the unexpected attack. Sparks danced across its hull before it powered down a turret. Cheers rippled through the crew on comm channels. In the medical bay, Nova felt the tremors of battle. She pushed herself up on the biobed, eyes wide with alarm. Dr. Rao rushed in. "Stay down," he urged. But Nova's fear twisted into determination. She closed her eyes and focused. Energy built around her like a silent storm. In the ward's reinforced walls, the lights dimmed and flickered as her power reached outward. On the bridge, sensors spiked again. Unidentified energy burst in. "The med bay," Briggs shouted. Chen turned. "All power to the shields around the bay," she ordered. "Secure the ward." As engineers sealed the doors and boosted local shields, the sensors showed a shockwave radiating from the medical deck. The pulse disrupted the nearby destroyer's engines, sending it veering off course. When the bay shield settled, Nova lay back, exhausted but calm. Dr. Rao knelt beside her. You saved us another time, he said softly. Nova managed a faint smile. She knew her gift was dangerous, but she also felt its purpose, to protect those who had saved her. Outside, the Artemis still danced with the Dominion fleet. The decoys had bought time. The point defense lasers had held the destroyers at bay. Nova's intervention had turned the tide in their favor. But the battle was far from over. Captain Chen studied the display. Their reserves were low, but so were the Dominions, at least for now. She squared her shoulders and tapped her comm. All hands listen up. We've held them off longer than they expected. Now we're going to strike back. Ensign Briggs, vector the drones for a clean retreat. Marines, prepare boarding charges. Target their power nodes. Let's show them why humans never give up. As the Artemis lunged forward, weaving through stellar gas and enemy fire, its crew rallied behind their captain. In the swirling light of the nebula, human grit met alien might, and a galaxy watched in surprise as the smallest ship stood defiant against the greatest war fleet it had ever faced. The hidden forge lay deep within a fractured asteroid, its entrance carved by ancient, miners long forgotten, dim lantern lights swung from metal hooks, casting dancing shadows on rough stone walls. Inside, the air was warm with the hum of machinery and the hiss of steam vents. Sparks flew as welding arms shaped new armor plates. Captain Mara Chen led the injured crew and Nova through narrow corridors, each step echoing against the rock. Dr. Elliot Rao supported Nova's arm, now wrapped in soothing bandages. The girl's eyes drifted from the glowing furnaces to the human faces around her. She had recovered enough to walk, but every motion reminded her of pain. Yet she did not complain. Instead, she studied each new tool, each bright spark, as though learning an unknown language. Her presence brought a hush over the forge workers, who stopped their tasks to watch with curious respect. Chief Engineer Lila Park gestured towards a work table covered in blueprints and holo display. "Voice, we'll need fresh plating," she said, "and you, Nova, will help us test it." The girl's shoulders tensed at first, but then she nodded. Despite her wounds, she rose with steady purpose. The crew guided her to a central platform where a half-built exoskeleton lay. Its joints were stiff, its metal cold, but it promised strength beyond any standard suit. While technicians fitted the exoskeleton around Nova's frame, Dr. Rao adjusted bioluminescent sensors along her spine. "These will track your energy flow," he explained. "They light up when your power grows. We can learn how your body works and keep you safe." Nova touched a sensor with gentle awe. She pressed her hand against the cool metal, and it glowed softly. A quiet smile spread across her face, bright against the forge's shadows. In the corner, Sergeant Lena Torres oversaw Marine training drills. She barked orders in measured tones as Marines practiced zero-gravity maneuvers. Floating in a sealed chamber, they hurled practice charges at moving targets. Nova watched, fascinated by their precision. When a stray charge glided past her, she reached out and caught it in midair, gently returning it to its owner. The Marines saluted, their surprise melting into admiration. Later, Nova joined the training. Torres guided her into the chamber. At first, Nova's movements were hesitant. The exoskeleton creaked under her shifting weight. But as she recalled memories of past battles, swift strikes, graceful leaps, her confidence grew. She floated upward, twisting with fluid grace, her new armor amplifying her strength. Marines paused to watch her, then cheered as she landed lightly on the platform, unhurt and unshaken. In the forge's central hall, Captain Chen and Chief Engineer Park studied star charts projected in mid-air. They marked a convoy route, heavily, guarded supply ships moving through an unclaimed system. "If we strike there," Chen said, tracing a finger along the chart, "we can cut off their resources and free the captives they carry." Park nodded. "We have 1 week to prepare." Sparks from nearby welding torches flared like distant fireworks. Nova entered the hall, her exoskeleton humming with energy. The crew fell silent. She stood before the charts and placed a hand on the holo display. The lines shifted, activating alternate routes and hidden defenses. In broken common, she spoke. They use secret patrol lanes here. We can slip through this gap. Chen looked at Nova, eyes wide. How do you know this? Nova closed her eyes, remembering every mission she had led. I studied maps before my defeat, she answered softly. I know their ways. A hush fell over the room. Humans and alien alike shared a moment of understanding. Captain Chen stepped forward and extended her hand. Then we fight together, she said. Nova took the hand, and their fingers closed in a firm grip. Two warriors, bound by purpose. Around them, the forge's light seemed to burn brighter, as if celebrating their alliance. As night fell over the asteroid, the forge glowed like a beacon. Sparks flew from welding arms, drills echoed in distant chambers, and the hiss of steam mingled with determined voices. Humans and Nova worked side by side, repairing her armor, refining weapons, and forging bonds stronger than steel. In this hidden sanctuary, fear and mistrust melted away in the heat of shared struggle. By dawn, the plan was set. Nova's exoskeleton gleamed under the forge lights. Marines had honed their skills. The Artemis stood ready in orbit above. Captain Chen looked at her crew, then at Nova. Tomorrow, she said, voice steady, we show the Dominion that humans and Cenex warriors do not back down. Nova nodded, her twilight eyes bright with resolve. In the silent seconds before the forge fell dark, a new alliance shone into being, born in fire and steel, tempered by compassion, and ready to turn the tide of war across the stars. Before dawn, the hidden forge fell silent. Its fires cooled, and only the loyal crew of the Artemis and Nova remained. In orbit above the asteroid, the survey ship drifted like a silent sentry under the pale light of distant stars. Captain Mara Chen stood on the bridge, surrounded by hollow displays that showed the convoy's route through the unclaimed system of Rho Prime. Her jaw was set, eyes bright with determination. Ensign Briggs, she said, give me a status. Report. Lieutenant Soren Briggs tapped on his console. The convoy is 5 million kilometers out. They have 6 escort frigates and 12 supply ships. The patrol patterns are predictable. Our modified freighter, the Vanguard, can slip in under local radar if we cut our power signature. Below deck, Ensign Kaido Mirelis and technician Aaron Patel made final checks on the Vanguard. The freighter's engines were masked with neural dampeners, and its hull had been coated with adaptive panels to mimic asteroids on sensor scans. Marines loaded weapons into the cargo hold. Light disruptors, magnetic pulse rifles, and compact plasma charges. Each soldier moved with quiet focus, trusting in the plan and in Nova's leadership. In the training chamber, Nova guided the Marines through zero-gravity drills. They practiced darting between floating obstacles, coordinating hand signals and using their exoskeletons to launch surprise strikes. Nova's movements were fluid and precise. She demonstrated how to channel their kinetic energy through the suit, striking with enough force to disable a turret or shatter a hatch. The Marines watched in awe as she leaped from platform to platform, her twilight eyes gleaming with purpose. Focus on your core, she instructed in measured common. Use the suit to extend your reach, not just your strength. Strike the joints. Shut down their weapons so they cannot fire back. Her voice was calm but carried authority. Each Marine nodded, absorbing her every word. Back on the bridge, Captain Chen reviewed the final plan. The Vanguard would enter the convoy's flank at Point Alpha, just as local comms reported an ice storm in the sector. The escort frigates would divert to investigate the weather anomaly, leaving supply ships vulnerable. Nova and a squad of Marines would board the lead transport, free the prisoners, and set charges on the other pods. At T-1 hour, the operation would begin. Outside the viewport, the Vanguard slipped like a shadow through a field of drifting rocks. Its adaptive hull blended with the debris, masking its approach. Nova stood at the airlock, Marines at her side, each heart beating with fierce hope. She tapped her comm. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, go. The airlock opened, and they floated into the void. Magnetic clamps on their boots pulled them toward the transport's hull. The escort frigates shifted course, their sensors fooled by the freighter's power signature. Inside the lead transport, alarms blared as Nova and her team breached the outer bulkhead. Within moments, they moved through narrow corridors, disabling automated gun turrets with swift precision. In the cargo hold, rows of sealed pods held dozens of prisoners, miners, farmers, and refugees from worlds already conquered by the Dominion. Many lay unconscious from gas sedation. Nova knelt by the nearest pod and scanned its lock with her gauntleted hand. The exoskeleton's sensors glowed, and the mechanism clicked open. One by one, she and the Marines pried open each pod and released groggy but relieved faces. "Stay close," Nova instructed. "We move fast." She led them toward the maintenance hatch. Behind them, the Marines set plasma charges on the pods they could not open quickly. They worked in pairs. One held a torch to melt metal, the other read the timer on the detonator. Soon a series of small explosions rocked the hold, venting the remaining pods into space and denying the Dominion their spoils. As the liberated prisoners stumbled free, the transport's engines roared to life. They had triggered an emergency lockdown. Nova activated a portable override device that Ensign Mirelis had crafted. Sparks flew as she connected it to the control panel. Moments later, the ship's main doors slid open. The group escaped into the Vanguard's cargo bay, and the doors sealed behind them. Captain Chen watched the operation unfold on the bridge. The dairy white lights of the convoy flickered as explosions bloomed on the lead transport. 2 escort frigates broke formation to investigate. The Artemis and a squadron of drones darted in, firing concentrated bursts at the remaining escorts. Without their lead ship, the convoy's defenses faltered. One by one, the supply vessels powered down and surrendered. Inside the Vanguard, Nova helped a mother cradle her crying child. The refugee smiled through tears and whispered, "Thank you." Nova's face glowed with warmth. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel relief instead of fear. Her past as a warrior had been one of destruction. Now, she guided her strength towards saving lives. By the time the Artemis and Vanguard regrouped, the defeated convoy lay coated in drifting debris. The liberated planets would soon hear of the daring rescue. Captain Chen hailed Nova. "Exceptional work," she said. "You've given hope where there was none." Nova nodded, but her gaze drifted to the freed prisoners. "Hope is stronger than fear," she replied softly. As the ship set course back to the hidden forge, the crew celebrated in quiet triumph. Sparks of joy flew in makeshift dances, and laughter echoed through the corridors. Yet all knew this victory was but the turning tide of a larger battle. Still, in that instant, humans and Nova stood together, proof that unity and courage could shift the currents of war. And across the stars, the galaxy took notice. The forge's great doors slid open as the Artemis and the retrofitted freighter Vanguard descended through the thick asteroid field. Below, the hidden sanctuary sparkled with renewed life. Technicians, Marines, and freed refugees moved among towering forges and humming machines. The air vibrated with the rhythms of repair, celebration, and hopeful planning. On the Artemis's bridge, Captain Mara Chen watched the asteroid's surface grow larger in the viewport. She felt a surge of pride for her crew and for Nova, the alien warrior whose courage had reshaped their fate. Around her, displays showed incoming messages from liberated systems, thanks, offers of support, and reports of unrest within the Barian Dominion's ranks. The galaxy was waking up. In the hangar bay below, Nova stood before a cluster of human engineers. Her exoskeleton gleamed under the bay's lights, its new plating seamless and strong. She ran her fingers along the armor's edge, testing its flexibility. The engineers nodded their approval. The suit now carried integrated energy dampeners, emergency shields, and a tactical uplink to the Artemis. With a satisfied nod, Nova turned toward the gangway leading to the bridge. As she walked through the corridors, crew members paused to salute or offer quiet words of admiration. Nova returned their gestures with a soft smile. No longer a frightened, Stranger, she moved as a respected leader among humans. Each step reminded her of the price she had paid and the new purpose she had found. At the command center, Nova joined Captain Chen and Dr. Rao before the central holo display. Images of star systems flickered, connected by lines showing newly opened communications. Chen pressed a control, and their joint message unfolded in floating text. People of the galaxy, we stand together for freedom. No more suffering under tyranny. Join us. Dr. Rao tapped coordinates for the next broadcast relay. We'll beam this to every outpost within range, he said. Torres and Briggs worked to secure the transmissions against jamming. Outside, the Forge's communications tower rotated, its dishes sweeping the sky for satellites and relay stations. Meanwhile, in the refugee quarters, families from freed worlds prepared for departure. Some would join the growing coalition's efforts. Others would return home with news of hope. A small child tugged at Nova's hand, offering her a hand-drawn picture of stars and light. Nova knelt and accepted it, her twilight eyes soft. She tucked the drawing into her armor, a reminder of why she fought. Back on the bridge, the final relay activated. Across dozens of systems, holoscreens flickered to life. In trading hubs, colony commons, and drifting way stations, humans, aliens, and androids alike paused to watch. On each screen appeared Captain Chen's calm voice and Nova's determined presence. Together, they spoke of unity, compassion, and a future beyond fear. As the message spread, responses flowed in. Battle cruisers breaking formation to join the coalition, merchant fleets pledging supplies, planetary governors granting safe harbor. Even within Dominion space, whispers of revolt grew louder. Soldiers accustomed to obedience found their convictions shaken by Nova's story and by the humans who had saved her. On the Artemis, Captain Chen allowed herself a small smile. It's working, she said quietly. Nova stood beside her, her fingers unconsciously tracing the edge of the holo display. Together, we can protect them, Nova replied, and show the Dominion that power belongs to the people, not to fear. Suddenly, alarms chimed softly. Lieutenant Briggs tapped his console. Incoming comm from the Dominion High Council. They demand Nova's return, or they will lay siege to this forge. The Council's stern voice echoed through the cabin. They offered truce in exchange for surrendering their greatest weapon. Captain Chen met Nova's gaze. In that silent moment, two leaders understood. To give Nova up was to betray every world they had freed. To fight risked bringing the Dominion's full wrath upon the forge. Yet they had no choice. Chen pressed the comm override. We will not hand her over, she declared firmly. If you wish to attack us, know that every star system you threaten will rise against you. The Dominion's reply crackled and then fell silent. Outside, the forges dimmed as workers paused. The silence stretched, heavy with uncertainty. Then a distant cheer rose from the asteroid's surface. Below, technicians ignited their furnaces once more. Sparks flew like fireworks, lighting the cavern in brilliant orange and red. Captain Chen turned to her crew. All stations prepare defenses, but don't lose hope. Our alliance grows every minute. Nova placed a hand on Chen's shoulder. I have fought many battles, she said softly. Never have I seen so many stand with me. As night fell on the hidden forge, the lights of dozens of ships formed a protective ring in the sky. Refueled convoys, civilian transports, and newly rallied warships held position, ready to defend their newfound alliance. In the heart of the asteroid, humans and Cenex warriors stood side by side, weapons sheathed, but spirits unbowed. Captain Chen and Nova climbed to an overlook balcony, gazing at the twinkling fleet beyond the hatch. The forge's hum grew softer, joined by murmurs of conversation and laughter. Nova lifted her head, eyes reflecting the starry expanse. Tomorrow, she said, we fight for peace. Chen nodded. And together, we will win it. In the stillness before dawn, on a lonely asteroid turned fortress of hope, a new alliance was born. It would face the darkness ahead, not with fear, but with unity, courage, and the unwavering belief that every life, no matter its origin, deserved to shine.